I thought my husband couldn't do anything when I confessed my affair, but he proved me wrong.
Sometimes it's not good to say the truth. Some truths are better left untold. I told my husband about my 8 weeks affair, and that has ruined everything for me. Well, I didn't expect him to react the way he did. His reaction was over-exaggerated. He ruined my childhood memories. I thought that telling him the truth would at least make him a little bit compassionate and let him calm down. Instead of calming down, he just decided to do something I never expected him to do. Hi guys, my name is Becky. I am 23 years old, and I have been married to my husband for 3 years now. During the past 3 years of our marriage, my husband has been very busy, and he hardly stays at home. I have been very lonely, and most times I feel disconnected from him. The past 3 years have been depressing because I thought my husband was going to be present in my life. But rather, he has been very far from me. I needed to feel loved and appreciated, but he's the opposite. The name of my husband is Andrew, and he is 28 years old. He is a surgeon, and he is very busy. The nature of my husband's job requires long hours of work, and he comes back home late. Sometimes he's always on night shifts and comes back home the following day. There are days I don't get to see Andrew before he leaves for work. Even on weekends, my husband works more at the hospital, leaving me lonely at home. This has caused a bridge in our relationship as we don't spend quality time like normal couples do. His hectic work schedule has made it difficult for Andrew and I to have normal conversation. We don't usually go on regular dates like we used to when we were still dating or attending functions together. Now Andrew is like a stranger, and I barely get to see him. This is not what I signed up for. I never signed up for this. I know his work is very important to him, and I'm not trying to be selfish, but this has mentally drained me. I have tried everything to make this marriage work. I even tried to have a conversation with Andrew about it, but he keeps talking about the nature of his job. There was even a day I waited for my husband to come back home for us to talk, but he made up an excuse that he was tired and not ready to have a back and forth with me. Yes, guys, you read that right. Andrew said it. Me trying to have a conversation with someone I'm married to is now making me look like a troublesome wife, or someone that always gives her husband a hard time when he comes back home. It seems like I am married to myself because I don't even know Andrew anymore. He wasn't like this when we were still dating. My husband was always giving me attention and everything I needed. Yes, I don't lack anything that would keep me comfortable at home or any material things, because my husband works for both of us. But still, I keep yearning for my husband's attention. Money is not everything, at least not to me. My husband doesn't want to understand that his wife also needs attention, like he always gives to his patients at the hospital. Andrew believes that all is fine with me because I have everything a wife could ask for in order to make her live comfortable at home. I don't even know the last time Andrew and I even attended a function together, or went out as normal couples. There was a time I had to attend a fundraiser all by myself. I felt so lonely looking at other couples that were present. It looked as if I was single. Some of Andrew's friends and mine kept asking why Andrew didn't come and why I came alone. I had to cover up for him. On many occasions like that, I do make excuses for Andrew. Sometimes I do feel like he's doing this on purpose or probably cheating on me with another lady. Who knows, maybe he's having an affair with one of his colleagues at work and using his work as a cover-up. On Andrew's birthday, I wanted to throw a surprise birthday party for him, so I invited some of our friends. I couldn't invite any family members because we live far from them, so I invited some of Andrew's friends and mine to help me surprise him on his birthday. On the morning of his birthday, I tried my best to wish him a happy birthday before leaving for work. We woke up that morning, I told him a happy birthday, and even sang a birthday song for him. He was happy, and I could tell he was smiling before he left for work. As soon as he left, I made a few calls and started the arrangements. I rented a hall and decorated it with help from our friends. To make it more unique, I baked a nice, lovely cake for Andrew. I made all the arrangements for food and drinks for those that would be present. I sent out a message instructing them not to let Andrew know about it so as to not ruin the surprise. Everyone complied and didn't let Andrew know of it. Everything was set. Everyone arrived at the venue 30 minutes to the time. The party was scheduled at 8 o'clock and everyone was present by 7:30. The saxophonist and the music band were also present. It all went according to how I planned it to be. Now, the only person to be present there was the birthday celebrant, Andrew. They were all eager to see the celebrant. I brought out my phone to put a call through to him, informing him to come to the venue. I wanted my husband's 28th birthday to be a memorable one for him, and at least it was my own little way of showing him how much I loved and still love him. Andrew was never like this before. I have no problem with him working, but his nonchalant attitude and lack of attention is what is draining me mentally and emotionally. All of this started when my husband got promoted at his workplace. I'm not trying to say Andrew's promotion is bad or something, but it has brought more harm than good. Well, to me at least. I barely see him at home. So guys, I brought out my phone to put Andrew through on the phone since he was the reason for the event. The first 2 minutes I tried, Andrew's line was unreachable. I kept my cool and continued trying his lines. I was desperate to reach him. After a few minutes of not being able to reach Andrew, I called the attention of Andrew's friend, Stanley. Stanley and Andrew have been friends since childhood, and they are very close in their friendship. I told Stanley about the situation that I can't get his friend on the phone because his lines were unreachable. He pulled me to a corner in the hall so we wouldn't create a scene and told me to calm down so that he would try to call him. Stanley also tried Andrew's line, but it was still not reachable. At that point, a lot of thoughts ran through my mind. What if Andrew had taken the supposed lady he was cheating on me with to a nice restaurant to celebrate his birthday? Meanwhile, I was there wasting my time to pull up a birthday surprise for him. I was lost in deep thoughts until Stanley told me that I should send him a text message and try calling him again. I tried calling him again, and this time, it went. I was very happy because Andrew's lines were reachable. I was very excited and anxiously waited for him to pick up his phone. I kept calling and texting him, hoping that Andrew would pick his calls. My husband didn't pick up nor return any of my messages. This also added to my frustrations, and I was completely pissed. Stanley also tried calling him multiple times but still got no response from him. I noticed that the guests were already complaining and asking what was going on. It's been an hour already and there was no glimpse of the celebrant in the hall. Stanley told me to keep trying Andrew's line while he took care of the guest. Well, somehow Stanley managed to convince the guests and returned back to where I stood. We kept trying his lines and we still got no response. It was very bad, guys. I'm not even joking. I was extremely embarrassed. At that point, it was not funny anymore. How could I invite my friends and Andrews to come out and surprise him only for him to delay like that? All my efforts were practically in vain. What did he expect me to tell all those people present there? My husband, whom I pulled out this surprise for, is not picking up his calls or returning any messages. OMG. I didn't believe what was happening back then. It was 9:30 o'clock and Andrew was still nowhere to be found. The guests started leaving in their numbers, feeling disgusted at how I managed to waste their time to come to a birthday party that the celebrant was not even in attendance. At that time, it felt like I should hide my face because of the nasty comments. All the guests left, leaving Stanley and I in the empty hall. I felt betrayed and was very angry with how things turned out. Stanley told me to go home and that he would take care of things there. I drove home weeping and cried my eyes out. I kept asking myself what I had done to deserve all of that. I kept asking myself why Andrew suddenly changed. We weren't like that before, so what changed? Those were the thoughts in my head as I drove home weeping. I got home and managed to get to the bedroom waiting for Andrew to come. A few minutes later, Andrew returned back. He met me all sobbed up and asked what was wrong with me. I asked him where his phone was and he brought it out. Guys, my husband's phone wasn't on silent or anything. I asked him if he didn't see my calls or messages, but he said he was sorry that he couldn't pick calls or return any text messages at that time. He didn't ask why I had to call him continuously like that or tried to be remorseful about it. Andrew and I got into a heated argument that night. I told him how I went out of my way to plan a birthday surprise for him and also invited friends to come celebrate with him, only for him to blow it up. Andrew also made the usual excuse, I was very busy with work. I was very disappointed and irritated, so I left the room. A few weeks went by, and Andrew's late night shifts grew worse. It was as if my husband was purposely made for that profession alone. I no longer sat with my husband to watch movies. We stopped eating together. We also stopped doing our normal daily routine. It was hell. I'm a full-time housewife. Before we got married, Andrew and I discussed that I stay at home while he works to fend for the both of us. I agreed to it, but I never thought it would turn out this way. That was not the life I imagined, and I don't plan to continue to stay that way. I didn't have a problem staying at home taking care of my family and household. But it is frustrating when your partner doesn't give you attention or even try to carve out time for you two to bond as couples. I don't even remember when I last received a gift from my husband. I'm sure he must have forgotten about the date of our anniversary. If he could not come to his own surprise birthday party, I was sure he wouldn't come for the anniversary. I couldn't continue to deal with this nonchalant behavior that Andrew had developed. I got tired and frustrated. Ways of communicating with my husband were completely poor. He didn't pick up his calls or return any text messages, and when he came home late at night, you couldn't discuss anything with him. The sudden change made me seek attention elsewhere, so I cheated. Yes, guys, I cheated on Andrew. I started going out with an old-time schoolmate of mine while I was still at college. His name is Patrick. Patrick was a year ahead of me in college, and he was one of the most handsome guys in school. One day, while I was scrolling through the news feed on Facebook, I received a friend request from Patrick, and I accepted without having any intention of doing anything with him. We started chatting for a few weeks, telling each other about how our day went. Our chats intensified, and we exchanged contacts. Patrick and I started texting, calling for late hours, and sometimes Patrick came visiting to keep me company. From what started with an innocent hi, Patrick and I became very close, and we went on a couple of dates together secretly. Yes, guys, Patrick knew I'm married but didn't know Andrew, so we kept our relationship private. This went on for a couple of months, and it felt like I was getting myself back. I forgot I was even married for a long time due to how Andrew had treated me in the past. Patrick gave me all the attention I was begging Andrew for. He noticed every little detail and made sure to put a smile on my face. It felt surreal, because I never thought that someone could listen to me or give me the maximum attention I was yearning for. I was beginning to feel like Patrick was the one for me, and gradually I forgot about Andrew. I never planned to cheat on my husband or do anything to strain our marriage. Andrew couldn't see that his late night shifts and constant late coming at night had caused a bridge in our marriage. He wasn't able to balance the time between personal life and career work together. Yes, I blamed Andrew for this. I blamed him for choosing his work over his wife and giving me less attention than he gave to his work. I didn't regret going out with Patrick. At least I have felt alive for the last couple of months now. Last Friday around noon, my husband came back from work with some bags that he probably must have gotten some stuff from the store. I was surprised to see Andrew coming back home early at that time. He never comes back home in the afternoon. In fact, sometimes when he left for work till the following day. He approached me with the bags and handed it over to me and said he got them for me. I looked confused and asked him if everything was okay with him, and he said yes. Guys, Andrew got me a dress, wristwatch, a bag, and a shoe. He told me to put them on so we could go out for dinner. Yes, dinner. My husband wanted to take me out for the first time in a long time. I lost count of the last time he took me out. It was a bittersweet moment for me. It was bitter in the sense that I was already going out with someone else, and at the same time it was sweet, because my husband had started making out time for us. So guys, Andrew kept on with the sudden behavior. He started taking me out, buying me lots of gifts, went on a couple of dates, and attended functions together. Literally, we started spending quality time together as couples do. He didn't come home late at night any longer, and his night shifts were reduced. On the day of our anniversary, Andrew threw a surprise party for me and promised to rewrite all his wrongs and apologized for the way he had treated me. I was happy that my husband had started realizing where he got it all wrong, and he was ready to make it right again. I lived in those moments for a very long time before I realized that Andrew had no idea of my infidelity. He didn't know that I cheated on him when he failed to give me attention. And I know you all would be wondering what happened between me and Patrick, right? Well, nothing really happened. Patrick and I continued meeting each other as usual. I thought Andrew's sudden change was temporary, but it grew strong for months. He doesn't usually go to work on weekends anymore, so we used it to watch movies and cook together. I missed those days when me and Andrew used to cook, clean, and do other house chores together. It was great back then. We used to be so close together not until he got promoted at work, leaving me lonely at home and not giving me the attention I needed. The last few months were great for me because I finally got the attention I needed from my husband, and we bonded so well together. On the other hand, Patrick, my affair partner, wanted more from me. He complained that I gave him less attention and ignored him ever since Andrew started giving me attention. Well, yes, he was right about that. Andrew's new change made me rethink my actions. I felt so guilty. But then again, it wasn't my fault from the start. I gave deep thoughts about this mess I have drawn myself into and planned on telling Andrew. I wanted to also make things right again by letting my husband know that I cheated on him with one of my schoolmates, Patrick. I don't know why, but the guilt killed me inside. I called Patrick and ended things with him. I told him I couldn't continue with the relationship anymore, and I wanted to fix things up with Andrew. This didn't sit well with Patrick. He kept on calling and texting me to have a change of mind. I blocked his lines and ended all forms of communication with him. I also warned him not to come and visit me anymore because Andrew was constantly at home these days. Few weeks after breaking up with Patrick, I felt so uneasy and guilty. Andrew's presence and his lack of knowledge about his wife's infidelity was killing me inside. If Andrew should know about it, it shouldn't be from any other person except I tell him the truth myself. I tried on many occasions to let him know, but I guessed I was too scared of how his reactions would be. So, guys, I couldn't continue with the guilt any longer, so I waited for a perfect opportunity to tell my husband. One day, Andrew and I were sitting at home watching a movie together, and I summoned courage to tell him about how I had been having an affair with Patrick for 8 weeks now. I felt uneasy, but I noticed that he was so focused on the TV he was watching and didn't notice that I was fidgeting. Out of nervousness, I took the remote and paused the TV. Andrew was surprised by my actions and asked what was so important that I wanted to discuss with him that I had to pause what he was watching. He sat facing and asked me what was making me feel uneasy. I finally got courage, and I told him everything about my affair with Patrick. I noticed the look on Andrew's face while I was telling him everything. He got so furious to the extent of him throwing the glass of wine in his hands to the wall. The more I told him about what had transpired between me and Patrick, the more Andrew began breaking things he laid his hands on. I became very scared that I had to run out of the house and went to stay with my sister, Trisha. I told Trisha all about the situation and the reason why I cheated on my husband, Andrew. At first, Trisha was very angry with me for hiding such an important matter from her. All this while, but later tried to calm me down. She suggested I call my husband so she could have a word with him so he might calm him down. I tried calling Andrew, but he didn't pick up or return any of my messages. Trisha and I tried calling him for 30 minutes but had no response from my husband. My sister told me to get some sleep so that we could continue trying his lines the following morning. I woke up before Trisha and started calling Andrew. For a few minutes, the lines were reachable, but at some point, it wasn't reachable any longer. I kept on trying, but it seemed Andrew had blocked me on all platforms. I couldn't reach out to him. I wanted to talk to him and explain the reason for my actions. Weeks went by, and all communication from Andrew was not possible. So, Trisha decided to go with me to the house. On getting there, we saw Andrew trying to enter his car to drive out from the compound. I quickly ran to him, but all efforts to make him talk to me were all in vain. Andrew smacked the car door right in my face and instructed our gatekeeper to throw me out immediately before he drove out from the compound. I was completely shattered and heartbroken. How did I end up like this? Andrew couldn't even look at me twice. I guess I disgusted him at that moment. I left with Trisha feeling heartbroken. I couldn't go back to the place I called home. I practically used my hands to destroy the little family I was starting to build. My marriage of 3 years was gradually coming to end right before my eyes in seconds. I wished Andrew could listen to me and know that all that happened were as a result of his late-night shifts, hectic work schedule, and his lack of attention. He prioritized his work and gave me less attention. I wanted to tell him how he made me beg for his attention and how his absence at home killed me silently. I am now beginning to regret telling him the truth. How could he do this to me after telling him the truth, and I refused to keep him in the dark? But guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg because Andrew took revenge, and he did so in a very wicked way. Now, I didn't know that I was practically living with a very dangerous human being. Yes, he's bound to react after learning about the infidelity, but not in the way he did. He did something unexpected and wicked. His revenge completely shattered me. It was as if he planned everything perfectly all along and waited for me to fall right into his trap. I think he suddenly started staying off from work so he could trick me into telling him the truth by myself. Maybe he already suspected and just wanted to confirm, and I was stupid enough to fall right into the charade. I guess my lesson is well learnt now. Few months went by and I didn't hear anything from Andrew, and I really wanted to fix things. So I got angry and left for his place. On getting there, the gatekeeper didn't allow me enter the compound because he was instructed by Andrew not to let me in. I tried pleading with him, but he refused. I guessed that he wasn't ready to allow me in, and Andrew must have let out strict instructions not to let me into the house. After much back and forth with the gatekeeper, I managed to find myself in the compound. I hurriedly escaped the gatekeeper and went into the house. I inputted the old passcode, and it seemed like Andrew hadn't changed the passcode yet. I felt a little bit emotional after getting into the house because I had missed my home. Everywhere had been quiet, and I didn't find Andrew inside, but his car was outside at the parking lot. I proceeded further and went inside our room hoping to see Andrew, but I didn't. I just guessed that he must have stepped out before I got into the neighborhood. I spent a while wallowing in self-pity before I realized that my side of the closet had been empty. I thought there was something in my eyes, and I had been seeing starts, but I realized that I was actually seeing, well, nothing that belonged to me was left in the house, and that really came as a big shock to me because the last time I checked, I didn't have time to pack my things before I left the house. I had to run out of the house because I was scared Andrew would hurt me. I was using my sister's clothes while I stayed with her. Not even my bags, clothes, or shoes remained. All my childhood photos and even my boxes were gone. The room looked like I'd never even stepped in before. I was very surprised, and I swear that if Andrew had been present, I would have literally shredded him to pieces. I had been looking forward to grabbing some clothes to wear because I was tired of using my sister's clothes. Andrew really did me dirty on that one, and I furiously waited for him to get back. All the fear I had in me actually disappeared, and I no longer felt scared of being alone with him. After almost 30 minutes of waiting and getting disturbed by the gatekeeper who was scared of Andrew finding me in his house, I finally heard the front door open. I ran downstairs hastily because I thought that Andrew was finally back. But I didn't see Andrew there. Instead, I saw a tall woman standing there. I was very surprised, and I asked her if she was lost. That was the only reasonable explanation I could come up with because I couldn't understand why a random stranger was at the door. The lady actually laughed and directed the question back to me. She asked me if I was the one last. I got angry and asked her who she was. She introduced herself as Andrew's girlfriend. I actually laughed and waited for her to tell me she was joking, but she never did. My world literally shattered all over again. The realization that Andrew had a girlfriend broke my heart. I started imagining different scenes, and it was very bad. I imagined that she was the same woman he might have been cheating on me with. I don't know if I was just thinking too much, but I was not in the right frame of mind to make any decision. The lady had the audacity to ask me to leave. I introduced myself as Andrew's wife, but she told me she already knew that. She then had the audacity to tell me I was soon to be the ex-wife. I won't even lie, guys. I wanted to pounce on her right there and then, but I just had to control myself. I asked her if she was the one that cleared my clothing and kept them somewhere. She said yes, so I asked her where they were. She actually laughed mockingly before telling me that Andrew had given everything to her and he told her to do whatever she liked with it. So she sold off most of them and threw the rest away. I didn't think twice before grabbing her shirt in that very moment. All sane thoughts left me, and all I wanted to do was just make sure I scarred her with my nails. I grabbed her hair and asked her where she kept my childhood pictures, and she told me that she burnt everything. I swear that I was very angry, and I almost removed the hair on her scalp. She tried fighting back, but I was far much bigger than her, and she was in a state of shock. I can't believe that Andrew had the audacity to do that to me. How could he let a stranger take care of my belongings? How could Andrew keep a total stranger in charge of my childhood pictures? The clothes, bags, and boxes don't matter as much as those pictures. Not even the jewelry and makeup hurts me like those pictures. I lived with my stepfather and mother all my life because my dad died before I was born. My stepfather was not the best father to me, and I counted down the days till I got married and was independent enough to live that house. I took all my pictures with me because I didn't want to live any picture with them. That's why it hurts me so much that Andrew gave those pictures to a total stranger. There is nothing anyone could tell me. Andrew knew of the attachment I had with those pictures, and that's why he did what he did. I've spoken to him about it before, and I know that he intentionally decided to make that decision. While I was still trying to pull the lady's hair, Andrew walked into the house. He rushed towards us and separated us immediately. Apparently, the gatekeeper had called him while he was at work and told him that I was at the house. I asked Andrew why he did what he did, but he refused to give me an answer. He grabbed my hand and dragged me out of the house immediately. He told me to leave the house and never come back again. I was shocked that he had taken the side of a total stranger instead of listening to me first. I actually started crying because I could not believe that Andrew could do that to me. I never expected such a wicked thing from him. I asked him why he gave that lady the right to burn my childhood pictures, and Andrew told me that he could not care less whatever happened to me. I asked him if he was aware because his answer was the only thing that would determine my next action. He said he was aware and that he gave the orders. I slapped him on the face, and he was very surprised of the act. He tried coming at me later, but the gatekeeper grabbed his hand and stopped him from acting. Nothing he ever did to me pained me just like what he did. How could he do that? My childhood all gone. I left the house, and that's the last time I had seen Andrew. I decided to go to my stepfather and mother's house because my sister could hardly manage to feed the both of us. When I got there, I got another shock of my life. I discovered that Andrew came to my mother and stepfather, and he told them all about everything that happened between us. That was a very big blow to me because they are very religious people, and they do not tolerate infidelity or lies. They were not ready to accept me back into their house after what they heard. Even my own mother threw me out. I didn't expect anything good from my stepfather because we had never been close, but my mother really surprised me. I left the house and went back to my sister's place. I told her everything that happened, and she promised to help me out. I just told her not to worry about it and that I will move out in 2 months' time. It's been 2 weeks, guys, and I'm trying to find the best thing I can do for myself. The truth didn't save me at all. The truth just brought me more misery and pain. I regret telling him the truth. I should have just lied to him. Maybe that would have been the best thing to do. I guess once bitten, twice shy then. I don't plan on ever seeing Andrew again, and I will be filing for divorce. I waited for him to come with the divorce papers, but I haven't heard anything from him yet. Well, I will be filing the divorce, and I will definitely ask for alimony, spousal support, or whatever it's called. That man did me dirty, and I plan on trying my best. Update. The single life isn't as fun as you all make it seem. I'm not having as much fun as I thought the single life would be, lol. I never even thought I'd have fun in the first place, but I guess a little sense of humor is the best for the kind of hard life I'm living. For the first time in my life, I'm completely independent, and that's just one of the best things I've ever felt. I was in a hurry to leave my stepfather's house, so I got married as soon as I could. But now, I'm on my own and I'm learning what independence means. I filed for divorce, and our divorce was settled on 3 months. Andrew and his lawyer gave me a fair deal, and I was settled. My lawyer told me to take the deal immediately he saw it. I guess Andrew low-key understands just how much damage he caused me. It was a bittersweet feeling for me at the end of the day. I left my sister's house and rented out my own apartment. I have a CV and I graduated as an historian. I now work, and I've earned my first salary recently. Andrew and his new girlfriend have been going out a lot, and I've even seen pictures in social media. He has never been a social media person, but suddenly he's more than interested in posting pictures online. When he was with me, he was always extremely busy with work, and then he suddenly decided to start having time for social media. I even discovered that Andrew intentionally started giving me extra attention because his friend Stanley told him that there was possibility of me cheating on him if he didn't start giving me the kind of attention I craved. That's why he got scared of getting embarrassed and decided to give me attention in order to save his face among his friends. It was obvious that they had started talking behind his back after what happened at his birthday party, and he didn't want that. Anyway, I don't care anymore, and when Stanley came to meet me and tried to have a conversation with me, I refused to listen to him. I have no business with him anymore, and I don't want to have anything to do with him. Andrew is now my past, and I sincerely hope that I don't meet this kind of person in my life again. I regret telling him the truth, but I'm also happy I told him the truth. It's half sweet, half bitter, and I guess everything that happened was meant to happen all along. That's it, guys. I'm just working now, and I have to get to sleep early so I can wake up for work early. I don't want to be late. Thanks for accompanying me on this journey. I am currently regretting every decision I've ever made. Hello, Redditors. I've always been a huge fan of this platform, and now that everything in my life is crumbling, I feel like it is suitable to share my situation here. I am hoping that by speaking up and sharing my story, some of y'all might avoid making the same marriage-scattering mistake I made. Temptation is something we should all avoid. For a few minutes of fun, I've ruined my marriage that took years to build, and I've lost every sense of stability. I cheated on my husband with a younger student of mine at the college where I lecture. This singular mistake of mine has currently torn apart my entire life. I know you're probably wondering about what happened and how it happened. So let me give you my backstory first. My name is Serena, and I am a 45-year-old woman. My husband, Mike, is a 46-year-old man, and we've been married for 23 years. We have 2 wonderful kids, Damien and Resend. Damien is 21 and Resend is 19. They're both currently away at college. Mike and I met at college. Mike and I first crossed paths in the hustle and bustle of the university library. You know, that place where the air is thick with the smell of old books and dreams of the future. I was knee-deep in my love affair with literature, lost in the magic of words sprawled across pages. Mike, this curious guy with a spark in his eye, noticed me engrossed in my reading. Our initial interactions were more like quiet smiles and shared glances amidst the sea of books. Slowly but surely, our late-night coffee breaks turned into conversations, and those stolen glances during lectures became the highlight of my day. Lowell, when I started college, I was all about being super serious. You know, no time for romance, just books and lectures. That was the plan. But then along came Mike, this dude who practically radiated happiness. Always smiling, super kind, the whole package. At first I resisted it. I was like, nope, staying focused here. But Mike was relentless. His laughter could turn the most me day into something special. He had this way of making life feel lighter, like he held the secret to enjoying every little moment. Mike seemed to have cracked the code of perpetual happiness. Always with that infectious smile, he had this gentle and kind aura that melted away my well-intentioned walls. In the beginning, I fought against it, reminding myself of my initial pact with academia. I tried to stick to my no love, just study rule, but Mike's easygoing vibe and genuine joy started breaking down my defenses. It was like he had this magical power to turn seriousness into laughter and make every day a bit brighter. Mike was like a persistent ray of sunlight. He warmed his way into my heart. His laughter was contagious, capable of turning the gloomiest day into a joyous adventure. Gradually, I found myself drawn to his easygoing nature and the simple joy he found in every moment. It was as if he held the key to a world where seriousness was replaced by laughter and warmth. So, despite my best efforts, love crept in, and suddenly, my heart wasn't following the academic script I had planned, the strict study-only policy I had set for it. Mike's charm flipped my college journey into an unexpected adventure of laughter and warmth. Love happened, and it was a surprise that made those study-only intentions fly right out the window. Against my initial resolve, I started to see the beauty in letting someone in. Our first date wasn't your usual fancy dinner or movie night. Mike decided we should have a spontaneous picnic in the park at sunset. It might sound cliché, but trust me, Mike had a talent for making the ordinary super special. We walked through the park, carrying blankets and a basket filled with all sorts of snacks. Mike's excitement rubbed off on me, and I couldn't help but get into the spirit. We found a spot under a big oak tree that seemed just right. What made the picnic awesome was the surprise element. Instead of regular sandwiches, Mike brought out a mix of international snacks: Thai noodles, French pastries, and some weird fruit I couldn't pronounce. It was like a mini world tour for our taste buds, right there on the blanket. As we munched on the goodies, Mikey told hilarious stories that had us both cracking up. He had this knack for turning everyday stuff into something funny. Time seemed to stand still, just us, the sound of leaves and distant city noise. Then we had an unexpected dance party with just Mike and I in attendance, LOL. Mike pulled out a tiny speaker, and a sweet tune started playing. He grinned and, like a pro, asked me to dance. We twirled around under the stars, laughing and having a blast. It felt like a scene from a feel-good movie. But wait, there was more. Mike handed me a small, fancy-looking package. I opened it to find a glow-in-the-dark frisbee. He remembered me mentioning how I liked playing frisbee in the evenings. The fact that he remembered and turned it into a surprise was just so sweet. We ended up throwing the frisbee in the semi-darkness, missing catches and laughing like crazy. We didn't care if we looked silly, it was about enjoying the moment together. I remember thinking, this is the kind of date you remember forever. As the night wound down, we lay on the blanket, staring at the stars. Mike shared his dreams, and I shared mine. It was a level of honesty and connection that felt real. Our first date wasn't just fun. It was a sneak peek into the kind of relationship where you can be yourself. I went home that night with a heart full of laughter, a glow-in-the-dark frisbee, and this feeling that I'd just had a seriously amazing time. Mike had this way of turning a regular evening into an unforgettable adventure, and remember feeling that this was the kind of person I'd want to spend the rest of my life with. Deciding to tie the knot before completing college was a wild move, but for Mike and me, it felt like the right kind of crazy. Mike's parents, though well off, were surprisingly laid back and adored me. On the flip side, my family couldn't get enough of Mike. So, despite the unconventional timing, we took the plunge into marriage. The decision to get married wasn't about throwing a grand affair. We opted for a small church ceremony with only a handful of people invited. It raised a few eyebrows considering Mike's wealthy background, but what folks didn't know was that it was exactly what I wanted. Something private and intimate. Walking down the aisle in that small church, the air felt charged with excitement and a bit of disbelief. The intimate setting surrounded by our closest loved ones made it feel like it was just us, promising forever. Mike's parents, the coolest, most easygoing people ever lol, cheered us on, while my family beamed with joy. Our vows were exchanged in a space filled with love and support, far away from the grandeur one might expect from a family with Mike's financial standing. The choice for a more modest celebration wasn't about avoiding extravagance. It was about authenticity, about the simplicity of our commitment to each other. The reception that followed was a cozy gathering filled with laughter, shared stories, and heartfelt toasts. It wasn't the opulent affair one might associate with a wealthy family, but it was perfect for us. We danced, laughed, and celebrated the start of our journey together, surrounded by the warmth of our closest friends and family. Our decision to marry before finishing college might have seemed impulsive to some, but for us, it was a declaration of love and commitment that defied societal expectations. Love knows no perfect timing. Also, looking back, our small wedding in that quiet church remains a cherished memory. It wasn't about the size of the guest list or the extravagance of the event. It was about two people choosing each other, surrounded by the love of those who mattered most. And in that simplicity, we found the foundation for our love story. You know, they say you never know what you have till it's gone. I never knew how precious and important Mike was to me until I lost him all because of some fun. The transition from college to whatever came after was another whole chapter for Mike and me. Graduation was looming, and we were headed in different directions, driven by our unique dreams. For me, teaching was the goal. It wasn't just a job, it was a passion. I wanted to be in a classroom, helping students grow. Mike, on the other hand, had a more laid-back approach to college. He was set to inherit the family business and become the big-shot CEO LOL, and he also had a trust fund waiting for him. College, for him, was more about the experience, the parties, the friendships, and the whole shebang. Our talks about life after college highlighted the gap between our plans. I was all about education, wanting to make a difference in the lives of students. Mike, on the flip side, was cool with life unfolding naturally, knowing his future was somewhat set. The contrast in our college experiences and post-graduation plans didn't mess with the bond we built during those years. Moving from college to the real world brought a mix of excitement and nerves. I went job hunting, hoping to find my place in the education scene. Meanwhile, Mike smoothly transitioned into the CEO role, handling the business world like a pro. Our post-college journeys took us in different directions, but our connection stayed strong. Living together as a married couple, we supported each other through the highs and lows. I found my groove in teaching, while Mike tackled the complexities of running a business. And a bunch of years passed since Mike and I left college. I was now a successful professor teaching at a college that I cannot name due to privacy, and Mike was CEO of his family's business. Our kids were also off in another state, tackling their own college adventures, lol. And you know what? Life, despite all the success, started having this nagging feeling of routine, the everyday grind, the comfortable rhythm of our marriage. It started to feel like a broken record. With the kids off doing their thing, I was always bored, wondering what came next. All the wins and achievements that should have made me feel on top of the world weren't shielding me from the creeping boredom. The excitement we had in the early days has mellowed into a kind of peaceful but dull routine. Mike's CEO life kept him busy, dealing with board meetings and business trips, and sometimes it felt like we were in different worlds. And then there was also the fear of getting old. The little signs like a wrinkle here and a gray hair there made me realize we were not the college kids anymore. Life had thrown us responsibilities, and it was messing with who I thought I was. It's not that I'm unhappy with Mike or the life we built. It's just this itch for more, personal growth, rediscovering what makes me tick. The success that defined us seems to have dimmed the spark that kicked off our journey together. Years roll by, I'm still just there doing some soul searching. I was respected and successful, but still, yet I felt so bored. Our life, the careers, the pride in our kids, all awesome stuff. But the itch for something more won't shut up. It started pushing me to shake things up, to find a new groove. It was at a point where I needed to talk to Mike, to understand each other, and maybe take on new adventures, together or on our own. A chance to rediscover and renew ourselves. But I never talked to Mike. That was where I was stupid. Mike was the most understanding person I knew. If only I had talked to him, he would have listened. He would have tried, he would have fought for us, but I didn't talk to him. I left everything inside me and pretended as if I was fine. And as if to destroy everything I had built in years, the devil Lowell sent a person named Jake. Jake was the biggest mistake I made. Let me tell you about Jake. He was 20 years old and he was a student in some of my classes. I say was because even though I haven't been called in by the board to explain myself, I'm pretty sure that I am losing my job over this mistake. Now, like I previously said, Jake was a student in some of my classes. He stood out because he was very good-looking and very charismatic. I noticed that a lot of the students liked Jake because he was funny and handsome and also smart. Jake was the kind of student that was in everyone's good books. Initially, I didn't notice him much or pay much attention to him, other than observing the fact that he was intelligent and also handsome. He also reminded me of my kids, as my kids were smart and also very good-looking. They were also very charismatic. And there was a running joke in the house that our kids could take down a monkey from a tree, lol. Either ways, I only started to notice Jake when he started interacting with me more. He would stay after lectures were over and ask if he could help me or something. He would ask to help me with the virtually anything I needed help with, be it grading another class's test or carrying some of my things to the car. He was generally very helpful, or at least that's how it seemed to me. Jake was a very manipulative person, but it wasn't something I really noticed then, as I was entranced by him. Soon Jake and I were talking more. We would have conversations and defend our points of views. For example, he believed that Socrates did not exist and that he must have just been a figment, of Plato's imagination, while I, on the other hand, believed that Socrates must have existed, and just because there was no record of his existence apart from Plato's notes didn't mean he did not exist. It was obvious pretty quick that Jake wanted something more. That was the time where I should have shut him down. But I kept encouraging him, talking to him, having him help me, and pretend as if I didn't know that he wanted more. Soon, Jake and I were hanging out more outside lecture hours, and soon we were getting intimate. He said he didn't care about my age, and told me that I was beautiful, no matter how old I was. I was flattered and entranced by the fact that someone as handsome as Jake, who every girl in the campus had a crush on, actually liked me. We were soon getting intimate a lot in my office after lecture hours. I couldn't take Jake to my home because Mike had an irregular schedule. Even though he was always busy, you could never know when he would be free and at home. He could be in Italy for a business trip, and in a few hours' time, he would tell you that he was flying back home. Sometimes he wouldn't even tell you he was coming so as to surprise you. I was too scared and horrified by the prospect of Mike coming home and finding me and Jake together. Even more so, my kids had inherited Mike's habits of not informing anybody before coming home. So sometimes you would think that they were in school, and lo and behold, they would be on the next flight home without even telling anybody. I didn't want my kids coming home to surprise me and meeting me and Jake intimate, as that would probably scar them for life, so I resorted to my office and hotels. Jake and I mostly preferred my office, as we could be intimate immediately after lectures had ended and everyone had left. I even started staying at work late and telling Mike I had to work overtime when he was at home just so I could spend time with Jake at the office. Honestly, during my whole time of doing this, I felt very guilty. I loved Mike a lot and couldn't imagine my life without him. But I also wanted some excitement in my life, and Jake could provide that excitement as he was young and active. Mike's business was very successful, but that also left us with little time for each other. I could barely remember the last time we had a whole day to each other. Mike planned on slowly retiring, though, when our oldest Damien was done with college and Mike could slowly pass the mantle of CEO onto him. They were times when I would sometimes have nightmares of Mike finding out and confronting me, or even coming to see me at the university and stumbling onto me and Jake intimate. I would dream about Mike screaming at me, asking me how I could cheat on him. To be honest, I should have taken those dreams seriously and maybe stopped cheating while I was still ahead and Mike was still in the dark, but I didn't, LOL. I even thought the dreams were only coming as a result of me being scared of Mike finding out. Well, on the day when it all blew up in my face, I was at the university. I had just finished up a lecture about an hour ago, and Jake and I were being intimate. Mike had already texted me that he would soon be home in a few hours, so I planned to finish up with Jake and then go back home in a few hours to meet Mike, as I had missed him. I noticed that my kids had given me a few missed calls. Damien had called me 5 times, and Reese had called me 7 times. But I didn't pay it too much mind. In the house, we had a rule that if it's very urgent, text about it. This was because sometimes we would be too busy to pick a call. But we could take a quick glance at our phone if it was a text. Also, Damien and Reese could call you a billion times for the smallest things. LOL. So texting just worked better. I planned to call them back when I was frightened later in the evening because I knew if it was a very huge emergency, one of them would have texted since. I soon finished up with Jake, dropped him off, and then headed home. I was so happy to see Mike. I didn't even pay attention to his countenance. I made us dinner, and then we sat down to watch a movie and discuss stuff. All of a sudden, Mike asked me if I had checked my Instagram and that he had tagged me on a post. I was a bit surprised, as Mike wasn't really an Instagram person, but sometimes or occasionally, he would tag me under funny posts or something he felt he wanted me to see, or he would save and send the post to me. I told Mike I would check the post later, but he insisted on it and said he wanted me to check it now, so I opened up my Instagram and went all the way to my notifications. I immediately noticed that Mike wasn't the only one that had tagged me. My kids had also tagged me, as I recognized their Instagram handles. My kids were something of Instagram influencers, and I followed them. I clicked on the post, and what I saw shocked me. It was a photo of me and Jake in a hotel room. It was obvious that we had just been intimate, and I looked as if I was sleeping in the photo. And even worse, Jake had been the one to post the photo. Not just that, in the caption, he had also bragged about being able to sleep with his lecturer. and the post was viral. I was shocked. I was horrified. I didn't even know what to do. It was as if time froze. Mike was staring at me, and it was obvious he had already seen the post. I noticed that my kids had also tagged him along with me on the post. Now I knew why my kids had been calling me. What would I tell everyone? The photo that Jake posted was so compromising that it was obvious what was going on, and I wouldn't even be able to lie about it. Mike had gotten up from the couch by now and was heading out. I tried to call out to him, but he stormed out. He was no longer calm and pretending as if everything was fine. I tried calling Mike after he left, but he wouldn't pick up. My kids also tried calling me again and even texted me. At that point, even my in-laws and family members had started calling me. It was as if everyone has stumbled on the post. I still tried reaching Mike, but all to no avail. But all I got back from him was a single text that by the time he came back in an hour or so, he wanted me out of the house. Now I've been married to Mike for a long time, and I know him like the back of my hand, so I knew that that was no empty threat. Mike was the kindest person that I knew, but when he got angry, he could do the craziest things. He never made empty threats, and if he promised to do something, he always went ahead with it no matter what. So I packed up just my clothes and essentials and left the house. I headed to my parents' house, and when I got there, I owned up to my mistake and told them what happened. They were angry, of course, but they couldn't abandon me in my time of need, so they took me in. As for my kids, it was as if the more I refused to pick their calls out of fear, the angrier they got. Soon, they had both sent me a text explaining that the thing with Jake was actually a game. Jake had been asked to pick a lecturer he would like to be intimate with, and he had chosen me. Jake had also boasted and told them to give him a few months, and that he would have me eating out of the palm of his hand soon enough. Of course, my kids hadn't experienced this firsthand as they were out of state for college, but they said that they had gotten this story from a very reliable person who was there at the party when Jake said it. I was so shocked to hear that, but suddenly it started to make sense. That was where all of a sudden Jake, who had never interacted much during lectures, apart from answering questions, when I asked, suddenly started helping me after lectures. I felt like a fool, and worse of all, I felt used. Mike still wasn't accepting my calls, so I decided to finally pick my kids' call. I couldn't tell them much as I didn't even have an excuse, so all I could do was apologize and cry. I begged them to help me, beg Mike. But they said that their dad was really hurt and that they weren't sure he would listen to anybody now. They felt so disappointed in me and said they felt so ashamed as a lot of people had tagged them under the post and a lot of people had recognized me. That is currently my situation now. I still haven't talked to my in-laws, but I know that they must be very disappointed in me. My parents are also very disappointed and saddened, and worst of all, my kids are shattered. The only communication that has gone on between Mike and me is him sending me a quick text, telling me that we would be getting a divorce. I feel shattered, I regret everything, and if I could go back in time, I would definitely do everything different. I'm posting this here, hoping that someone doesn't make the same mistake that I did. Thanks for listening.